for now, let's talk about chronic alcoholism, okay? So let's say, notice that NADH is made when ethanol is metabolized, okay? What is that gonna do to these other steps, okay? Can anybody point out for me something that will happen over here because a bunch of NADH is being made?
Would it increase the cycle like this?
Say again?
You're gonna want to make more lactic or
Yes.
lactic acid
Good.
to use up the NADH.
Yes. So that direction, the direction going towards lactate, will be favored because there's a lot of NADH. So chronic alcoholics can have lactic acidosis. That's one thing. Okay. What else? Where else is NADH used?
Electron transport chain.
Mm-hmm. Yep, to make acetyl-CoA. Uh-huh.
1,3 bisphosphate.
Mm-hmm. Just call out some more.
Well,
Right here?
eventually over here.
Yeah.
Yep, over here. Yep.
Yeah, once it goes in the cycle.
Yep, and then up here with glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Okay? So, what will be, okay, you pointed out that lactate is going to build up. That's correct. What else will build up?
Acetate.
Yes, correct. And that is more detailed. Oh, wait. It will, but it'll be converted into acetyl-CoA.
So it's really not going to build up because
Yeah,
it's
no,
going to
no.
keep going.
Yeah, no, this won't build up. Sorry, I thought you said acetone.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, what you meant to say was acetone.
No, but
You're absolutely
but,
right.
Yeah,
You're absolutely
well,
right.
Okay.
Acetone builds up.
But it's true. It would.
Yes, and I haven't talked about that yet. Acetyl-CoA, you brought that up. How ketones, acetone.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Okay, but point something else out. What else will build up?
Since the electron transport chain is trying to make NADH, would that like negatively?
No. Okay, so the NADH that's produced by
They're going to have
ethanol.
ketones because they'll eventually have ketoacidosis.
Yes.
Chronic.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep, that's correct. So acetyl-CoA will build up.
And spillage of ketones, excess amount,
That's right. Mm-hmm.
creating ketoacidosis
Yes.
chronically,
Yes, that's correct.
which causes liver damage.
That's correct. I'm looking for something else though.
How about glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate?
Good. And then what'll that be converted into?
Well, it should be converted into 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, but if it doesn't have any oxidized NADs.
So where's it gonna go instead?
Triglycerides.
Yeah. So you're gonna get a beer belly. Okay?
Would you also make more oxaloacetate?
Let's see. No. Because NADH,
Mm-hmm.
so converting malate into
Well, from pyruvate.
no, because you're not gonna get
You create a fatty liver.
yes, exactly. You're gonna
Yeah.
get a fatty liver.
Yeah.
Hepatosteatosis. Okay, so check this. Okay, so the citric acid cycle produces NADH, right? So if there's a lot of NADH compared to NAD+, so there's a high ratio, a lot of NADH, that's going to slow down the citric acid cycle, which is going to favor acetyl-CoA. See how acetyl-CoA can only go to citric acid cycle, can go to ketones. Over here. Or it can go to fatty acids and triglycerides. So yeah, in chronic alcoholism, the liver is going to start turning into fat, hepatosteatosis, which will then, if that goes on for a very long time, lead to fibrosis and permanent liver damage, and then the patient dies, unless they get a liver transplant, okay? Okay, so ethanol produces NADH, all right? Now, okay, so that's gonna cause glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to prefer to go to dihydroxyacetone, glycerol 3-phosphate, and triglycerides, right? Gonna slow down the citric acid cycle, which means that acetyl-CoA will go to ketones for ketoacidosis and to fatty acids for hepatosteatosis or your big old beer belly, like I have. One day I will have. And then also, pyruvate will prefer, instead of being converted into acetyl-CoA, it'll prefer to go to lactate for lactic acidosis, okay? So if you understand the biochemistry, a lot of these diseases start to make a lot of sense, okay? Chronic alcoholism or with diabetes, right? Okay. Yes.
Probably out of the scope, but out of the scope type questions come, you know, in stems and pieces. Non-alcoholic fatty acid liver disease, which is not from an ethanol base, but it's all this fatty acid accumulation in the liver, but not due to alcohol, ethanol consumption. Where is that, or do you know that yet?
I don't know that yet.
I don't know that. I'm gonna look that up.
I should know that though.
Because, I mean, it's a growing problem,
Yeah.
and it's a growing problem with younger people.
Yep.
So I
That
think
could
it's
just be a
actually,
zebra question.
I think it's actually from the fructose, because the
Yeah.
more fructose we eat, we're bypassing the regulatory step of glycolysis, and so that all immediately just goes into fat.
Because you almost always see obesity along with non-alcoholic fatty acid, NASH, NASH.
Yeah.
You do.
Nice.
Probably. That's good. It's
Josh,
gonna come down that way and hit it there.
Yeah. So
And
it's
load it
easier
up
for
in the
this
liver.
fructose to get
Because there's a
Compared
regulatory
to
step
the
that it just
glycerol,
Mhm.
the glycerol 3-phosphate into triglycerides, then it's gonna load up in the liver there.
Yeah. There's an extra step here that I didn't draw in. I think it's fructose 2,6.
Yeah.
Yeah. BP. Where's my black pen?
It's in front of the lemons.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, so fructose 2,6 BP, that's right? Okay. Yeah, so I like to think about this kind of as a lever. So let's say you had a ton of glucose, just a bunch of glucose, and it's getting converted into G6P and converted into F6P. Then that glucose will be converted into both F26BP and F16BP, okay? And if there's a bunch of glucose piling on here, a bunch of these guys piling on, that's gonna, then this entire complex will favor glycolysis, okay? And the names of the enzymes are hard to remember and hard to say. They're, I'll say them once, but then, okay, so there's, yeah, FBPase2, PFK2, FBPase1, and PFK1, okay? But I like to think about this intuitively, because all those names are pretty similar and kind of hard to keep straight. The point of the whole complex is this. If there's a bunch of glucose, this regulatory step, and you know it's a regulatory step because ATP is used, right? And it's the common step with ATP investment used by galactose and glucose, right? So this is the main regulatory step for glycolysis. If a bunch of glucose is building up over here, that's going to push the lever down, kind of like pushing the throttle forward, favoring glycolysis, okay? But now let's say there's no glucose. You haven't had a meal for 12 hours. Then there's going to be no glucose piling on. The liver is going to be, well, the liver is going to favor instead pulling back on the thrusters and then shifting into reverse. And this pathway will favor, so this guy regulates these two steps, will favor making glucose, right? Because if there's no glucose in the bloodstream, you die. Okay? So if blood sugar is low, the liver is going to pull back on the thrusters, shift glycolysis into reverse, and favor gluconeogenesis. Okay? And so that's also why, so that regulatory step, remember how fructose bypasses that? This is why you need friggin' 2 guards per witch, right? Because if you don't have 2 guards per witch, we get glyceraldehyde running around and glycerol free to do stuff and turn into fat, okay?
Question.
Mm-hmm.
If drinking alcohol increases NAD with the hydrogen,
Yeah.
and that tends to indicate maybe an accumulation of triglycerides
Yeah.
in various places and other bad things.
Uh-huh.
What does the reverse of that do? Say you have pump a little more NAD plus into the organism.
I don't know.
Does that reduce the triglycerides perhaps?
I don't know. Never heard of that. It's a good point though. But we'll have to bring that up to Dr. Pelly or something. It's a really good
I'm just curious.
yeah, that's a really good point. I guess
Reduce lactates, reduce triglycerides.
yeah. Huh. Let's see. So that'd be vitamin B3. So if you gave somebody a bunch of vitamin B3 and they were a chronic alcoholic with that, I mean, as far as I know, it seems like that would help, but I don't know.
B3?
Yeah, vitamin B3, niacin
Oh, nice.
is made into NAD.
I
Yeah.
actually had a farm professor at one point say, like, if you're gonna go out drinking, then like before you go to bed, take a bunch of B complex vitamins, and it'll really help with the hangover.
Whoa.
So.
All right. Well,
I think
figured
there's
he
some
could
recent
lose on
studies that have come out about niacin not helping.
okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, that's gotta be the reason.
That's an excellent question.
Depends on how it's metabolized. I would
Yeah.
think. But there are
mean-
probably some ways of promoting the production of NAD plus, I would think.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll ask Dr. Pelly about that.
Dr. Pelly is,
He's at the HSC. He's a biochem guy.
oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, we can stop that section.